What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and we are back from our summer hiatus. Although I'm not alone, and you might be expecting to hear the voice of Alex, the producer. No, no, no. I'm joined by my co-host from the lovely Garden State of New Jersey.
It's Ken from This Anime. Sorry to disappoint you, folks.
Nah, it is always a good time because August is the month that Alex basically takes the time to go into the regeneration chamber because he usually does some stuff on the back end, which is a lot more technical than the stuff I understand. And he takes the time off to kind of recharge and get ready because Broketober's coming, Starfield's coming, Holiday Gift Guide is starting to come. I'm starting to look at possibly putting together a back to school gift guide this year. Gen Con has just wrapped up as of this recording, so I've got a lot of really cool role playing products and card games to take a look at, which I was originally going to do as part of a different project, but the story just didn't get picked up. It is what it is. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and it's been a very, very busy summer since we took a break at the end of June here on TWIG. For me, a number of interesting personal developments. I guess the big tribble in the room is I am now freelancing for the tabletop role-playing company called Modifius, which is the company that produces Star Trek adventures. That being said, I am doing some stuff for them. I will still be taking a look at some of their products, but anything that I am associated with, I will not be reviewing because that would be weird. But I'm just going to be just kind of throwing that out there. I will still be looking at stuff like Captain's Log and Lower Decks and anything else that comes along that way. But just wanted to put that out there. So that's a very exciting thing that happened to me. I first submitted a proposal to those guys about a year ago, and the line editor Jim got back to me a couple of months ago, and we just did some back and forth, and I'm working on something really cool right now. Can't really talk about it, but it's going to be exciting. I've already had a chance to do some stuff, and never thought I'd find myself in the tabletop RPG industry. Just kind of thought I'd be on the outside my entire life, but here we are. So yeah, that was a big thing. I've been doing a lot of stuff here in Guelph, personally. Did a lot of speaking engagements during the last bit of June and during July. Um, I did some really cool stuff, and it was kind of neat. I tend to hang out in a lot of interesting places here in Guelph, usually within the echelons of power. And I had somebody say to me, "You know, Mike, it's like Guelph has adopted you." I'm like, huh, I've been adopted again. How about that? But it's kind of cool. I'm having like all sorts of people come up to me now and say, "Hey, I know you. You're from the newspaper." In fact, the other day I met famous Canadian author Robert Munch. For those of you that don't know who that is, if you Google, I think the book is called "The Paper Bag Princess," "The Princess and the Pea." I'll Love You Forever, which is the book that every mother and father will cry to their kids whenever they read. I met Robert while I was playing Pokemon in the park the other day, and some of his volunteers like, "Oh, hey, you're that reporter from the newspaper." So I went up and met Robert Munch, and I got my wife Blair a little video message from him, which was really nice. Then I'm trying to think what else to tell you guys has happened to me. I guess we'll talk about what we've been playing after I talk with Ken. So Ken, what have you been doing since we took our hiatus at the end of June?
Well, lot trying to get through Tears of the Kingdom, which took way longer than I really thought that game was going to be, because that game just didn't want to end. Like I'm like, I see the end in sight. Nope, psych. And it's just it was fun but annoying at a point where it's just like, and it's not like I'm going and getting all the Korok seeds because I'm not a masochist, because that would be just painful to go through and get 1,000 of those stupid things. Um, but overall, like I think Tears of the Kingdom does some good things about and builds off Breath of the Wild, but it also still has some of the annoying things about Breath of the Wild. And then after beating Breath of the Wild, I decided, you know what, I want to play something old school. I want to replay this. I haven't replayed it since it actually came out, which is Batman Arkham City. I have it on so many different devices. Like I have it on Xbox, I have it on PC. I have it on my Epic account because they gave it away for free. So what? Why not? But I ended up loading up a mod pack which has some upres stuff on PC. Does it look nice and pretty? Uh, and also just some slight modifications. But yeah, that game. I forgot some of the annoying parts of that game. Ra's al Ghul is a bitch.
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten that far. I'm also playing through that. I've actually been playing through that for the better part of like 6 months. I just keep getting new stuff to review, so I keep getting stuck. Yeah, I can't remember. I know I'm just after the fight in the museum, and
Okay, so
about
you're
halfway through.
leading up to you're leading up to Ra's.
I think I did
So
some
you're
Ra's
next.
al Ghul's fight or something. I can't remember. I know I had to fly around in some weird dream sequence or something.
Yeah, that's right before the Ra's fight.
Okay, then yeah, I think that's where I am. I'd have to go back and look, and Lord help me if I forget where I am in that game. But yeah, that game's really fun. I mean, I remember playing it when it first came out. I have no memory of it. So it's like playing it again for the first time.
I
Uh,
I remember I remember all the villains that show up. I remember the Mr. Freeze fight is amazing, which is the
yes.
next fight after Ra's. And then I the ending just completely floored me. Like
Yeah,
that is one of the greatest endings of any video game, period.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to going through finishing Arkham City, going through Arkham Knight one more time. That's a game I came very close to 100%ing when it first came out. Like I
You're a
played through
madman.
Oh, I loved that game. Like I love the combat challenges as Azrael because I love the Nightfall Batman from way back in the 90s. Um, Speaking of games that I've been playing, I started playing Persona 4 Golden and I got a little bit of way through it and then I just kind of stopped. Not the saying that I hate it, I just got busy because I got the Final Fantasy VI Pixel remaster and I've been kind of working my way through that and I'm just playing it with all the accessibility options on and it's a lot more fun now. I don't have to grind for hours upon hours. I forgot how much I love that game. Another game that I've been playing, and this was Ken, 2 o'clock in the morning decision. Years ago, once upon a time when I lived in Shelburne, I went to the midnight launch for StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, and I bought the collector's edition, one of the few that were available in the area. And whenever StarCraft 2 came out with a new collector's edition, I would buy it. Now, I didn't have a PC that was powerful enough to run Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void, so I just kind of let them sit on a shelf. Now, years later, I would end up selling all three for about $1,000, and I think I used that to buy some medical equipment. And so I just randomly had BattleNet up, and I was talking with Justin from Terrible Warriors and I browsed along those tabs, and it was like sale. StarCraft 2 is for sale. I'm thinking, hey, I own these. I remember popping in the codes, but I'm thinking, I don't know whether you need the disc or anything to run these games. I have no clue. But it said all three of the collector's editions were on sale for $13. Who cares? So for the price of like a Big Mac meal at McDonald's, I could get all three. So for the last week and a half, I've been playing through Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm. As of tonight, I'm starting Legacy of the Void, and I'm just playing through the games. I'm using cheat codes. I don't care. I want to see the story. And I forgot how much I loved StarCraft. Like, this was me in high school. I played on old school BattleNet. I used to play on a 26.4 kps dial-up connection. And it was so much of my life. I played StarCraft, I played Brood War, I played the expansion packs. I even remember picking up an unofficial mod pack at CompuCenter in Canada. If anybody knows what the hell I'm talking about, it was this weird mod pack that somebody made, and it made it to retail, and you played as this infective Terran ghost guy, and it was just really, really well done. So going back into this game, I forgot how much of the extra missions I just never did. Like, I never got certain units in the original game. So now seeing all the different dialogue trees, the choices, it's a really fun game. I forgot how much I hated the fucking Zerg. But when you are God as a Zerg, it is so insanely fun to, like, hey, Zergling rush, or hey, here's a crap ton of Mutalisks. Good night, Gracie. And it was just so much fun. And then finally, I started playing through some like other games this year. I started playing Shadowrun Returns, which is a friggin' blast. I've been modding the hell out of that. I've just had a really, really, really good time, and I've also been playing in my friend's Dungeons and Dragons game, and I never want to DM Dungeons and Dragons again because I'm having so much fun being a player. Although I'm going to try running some Star Trek now that I'm writing for the game. I might try doing that kind of locally at some point. But that is enough of what we've been doing. We got to talk about some of the big things that have happened in the geek world. This past week, we're going to have to lead off with a rather sad story when we hit into the nerd news this week. If you can't guess what I'm talking about, that is the death of actor Paul Reubens, best known for his role in Pee Wee Herman. He also was in Blow. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, countless roles across his entire career from the 1960s and 70s all the way to current. When he unfortunately passed away from a battle with cancer. But we also have some reviews coming up here on the show. We're going to talk about my first ever American Bruce Lee movie. We're going to be talking about Enter the Dragon on 4K from our good friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. We're also going to be talking about the Transformers role-playing game. If you haven't guessed, I've been really into Transformers this past year. We're going to be taking a look at the Geekmasters screen and the adventure that comes packed with a beacon of hope. And that's going to be coming to us from Renegade Game Studios. And then Alex has a review he is sending over from Subspace. So I'm not quite sure what he has in store for us, but I'm sure it'll be a surprise. So we're going to take a break here, right here on This Week in Geek, and we're going to start things off by meeting up with Kung Fu master, the inventor of Jeet Kune Do, I believe, his own martial art, Bruce Lee. This is going to be Enter the Dragon on 4K from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really cool we got from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm talking about Enter the Dragon on 4K Ultra HD with a digital code. This is actually the first Bruce Lee movie I've actually seen, and from what I understand, it was his last, because this movie was released in, I want to say, 1973. In July of that year, he died. This movie came out in August, but he was able to see the completed film before he passed away. Now, there are two versions of this movie on this 4K disc. There's the special edition, and there's the theatrical edition. I watched the special edition because there's an introduction from Bruce Lee's ex-wife, or widow, I guess, saying that this is the version that he preferred when it was about to come out. There is also an additional commentary on here as well. To talk about the 4K disc itself, this movie looks amazing for something that came out in the early 1970s. It looks about as good as something can from that time. The colors are nice and rich, the blacks are nice and deep, the colors really pop. It sounds really good. Well, I guess as good as any Kung Fu movie from that era can sound. And this is the first time I've actually seen John Saxon in something that wasn't A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I want to say I know the young African man, Jim Kelly. I recognize him from something, but I'm not entirely sure what. And I'm pretty sure one of these guys is like the bad guy from Bloodsport. I'm almost sure. And I also found out Sammo Hung was the guy in the beginning of the movie. There was a TV series, I wish I could remember what it was, that came out in the 90s. Maybe it was Nash Bridges or Martial Law, that's it, with like Sammo Hung, when like every martial artist had a TV show in the 90s, like Chuck Norris and Don Johnson and all those guys. But regardless, Enter the Dragon, it is the story of Lee. He gets sent to this island to infiltrate this drug gang, which is being run by this disgraced Shaolin monk known as Mr. Han. And obviously shenanigans ensue, and he's kind of using this like fighting tournament to lure the best fighters to recruit new people into his organization. And well, you get some pretty awesome fights in this. I mean, you get the famous nunchuck fight with like Bruce Lee, and like you get to see the scene where he gets all cut up because Han has this like fake arm that has like these like claws on it. So very much like Double Dragon 3 in the Legend of the Sacred Stones. I guess that's where they got the idea from. But no, this is a seriously entertaining movie. I'm really glad that I got a chance to sit down and watch this. And it wouldn't surprise me if we actually do more Bruce Lee movies here on TWIG in the near future. So if you've ever wanted to see one of the definitive Bruce Lee movies, and if this is gonna be your first Bruce Lee movie, then I don't think you're gonna go too wrong with Enter the Dragon on 4K Ultra HD from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
News.
And welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. That is Ken. All right, guys, we're going to talk about something rather sad and definitely a very huge part of my childhood growing up. And not unfair to say, he was a very large influence on me entering show business at one point. And I'm talking about the death of actor Paul Reubens. Pee Wee Herman has died at 70 after a private bout of cancer. This has been reported by multiple outlets. The article I'm going to be reading from today is from Variety.com. Paul Reubens, the actor best known for portraying the irrepressible, joyful, childlike Pee Wee Herman, died Sunday night after a private bout of cancer. He was 70. He says, quote, "Please accept my apology for not going public with what I've been facing these last 6 years," wrote Reubens in a statement posted to Instagram after his death. "I have always felt a huge amount of love and respect from my friends, fans, and supporters. I loved you all so much and enjoyed making art for you." The Pee Wee Herman character was known for his bright red bow tie, gray suit, and flat top haircut, and delivered his well-known catchphrase like, "I know you are, but what am I?" in a distinctive, squeaky, high-pitched voice. Last night, we said farewell to Paul Reubens, an iconic American actor, comedian, writer, and producer whose beloved character, Pee Wee Herman, delighted generations of children and adults with his positivity, whimsy, and belief in the importance of kindness, wrote Reubens' estate in the caption. Paul bravely and privately fought cancer for years with his trademark tenacity and wit, a gifted and prolific talent. He will forever live on in the comedy pantheon and in our hearts as a treasured friend, man of remarkable character and generosity in spirit. And then an article just goes on to kind of talk about his life and where he was born. One of the things I want to bring up is I was reading some of the people who talked about his life on Twitter, or X, which I'm never calling it that. Fuck you, Elon.
Yeah.
But one person had wrote that this guy was going through a divorce, and he wrote to Pee-wee, or Paul Rubens rather, and said, "Hey, me and my daughter were having to move around, and I'm showing my daughter Pee-wee's Playhouse." And Paul wrote back to him and said, "Hey, I have a house in Florida. Would you and your daughter like to come out?" And they went there and they had lunch with him, and they didn't overstay his welcome. But I think, if I remember the story correctly, they stayed in touch for years. Like, there would always be a phone call or a letter or a Christmas card, stuff like that. And that wasn't the first story that I heard. There was a production assistant, I think, on Conan O'Brien, who was prepping Paul for an interview, and the guy just checked in on Paul, and he invited him over to his house. They had lunch together, and they always just kept in touch. And that's something that I've noticed a lot with all the stories that are coming out about Paul Rubens after his death. The guy was immeasurably kind to his fans. He was always there. People wondered if he was a lonely person because he was so nice to people, but I think that's the sign of a genuine
Human.
yeah, like, you really take that time out to appreciate everybody in your life. And I know that's something I've tried to emulate whenever I meet people on the street here in Guelph, for example, is always take the time to be kind, to talk with people. And I don't know, it's kind of cool to know that, I don't know, that someone like Paul Rubens was doing that and he had such a lasting impact on lives. I can only hope that when I go, I'm remembered as well. I'm not saying I'm in the same category as Paul Rubens, but I don't know. There's something about that level of generosity and kindness that transcends the Pee Wee Herman character, and he was so much more than that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I
like,
know him. I know him for a lot of his voice work.
yeah, he had such a prolific career. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, um, I think the first time I saw him is, I think I was growing up in the 80s, of course, and I saw Pee Wee's Playhouse, and then I rented Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And that opening scene in his crazy house with the machine and the Mr. T cereal, and him fighting the bully Francis, and him going to his house and trying to drown him in the bubble bath, or like going to the Alamo in Texas and saying it's in the basement, and there is no basement at the Alamo, and then the giant dinosaur and Large Marge and everything. And I remember as a kid doing the Pee Wee Herman laugh over and over and over again, because he was just such a part of my childhood. And I remember seeing him when he popped up in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Just such a weird role. And I was like, okay, you're so much more than that. And then I remember when public opinion turned against him when he had the incident in the adult movie theater, which I've had some people look at it in a different light recently, saying, what happens between consenting adults in a place that's meant for that? Why are you getting so bent out of shape? It is what it is. And I'd never quite thought of it like that. And I always kind of felt he was unfairly judged for that. I also remember his PSA against drugs, which I think hit around the same time as the Johnny Depp one. So yeah, it's kind of incredible to think about how long his career had gone on. I was listening to a Kevin Smith podcast with him and Mark Bernardin talking about, there was another Pee Wee Herman show that was on HBO, and Phil Hartman was Zombie the Genie. And I didn't know that. The only one I remember is the other Zombie and Cowboy Curtis, who was fucking Morpheus from the Matrix movies with Lawrence Fishburne. Kind of incredible to think how far his empire had went. Like, I remember when Shout Factory released I think it was the Blu-ray or the DVD set a number of years ago, and I tried so hard to get it. And even the Pee Wee Herman stuff on the secondary market goes for huge money still. I remember I was watching, I think it was like an episode of like some toy hunting show, and I think the chair Cherry had gone for some ridiculously huge price because it was still in package. And I think at a flea market a number of years ago, I think I saw a Pee Wee Herman doll go for like $400 or $500. It was still in package, and that's something I always wish I'd picked up when I was a kid. Was the Pee Wee Herman doll, but I don't have it, and I can only imagine what those prices are gonna look like now. What are some of the more? What are some of your memories, Ken, that involve Mr. Paul Rubens?
I mean, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was something that will stick in my childhood because of the one scene. We all know the one scene that scared the ever-loving crap out of us. But it but it's but that also sticks with me because it's just like, yeah, it was scary, but it was also it wasn't too scary to the point where it traumatized me. It's just
Yeah,
it's memorable. It's
yeah, for
memorable
sure.
because it was scary. And I think that is kind of his uh, that's kind of what he put out there. It's like, yeah, the world's scary, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to let it rule your life.
You know what, Ken? Maybe we should do something about the Pee Wee movies at the end of this month for loose cannon.
Hmm.
Just kind of thinking about it because I've seen Pee Wee's Big Adventure, Big Top Pee Wee, but I never did see the Netflix one.
Yeah, I don't even know it because things are getting pulled left and right. Who knows if the Netflix one is actually still up?
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to venture upon the high seas, me matey, and we'll have to see if we can find it because I think that would be very interesting to just look back at his career. So you know what? Let's put a pin in that, and we'll maybe do something for Mr. Paul Rubens towards the end of this month here on This Week in Geek. If anything, one thing I want to take away from his death, as I mentioned earlier in this, I want to be like Pee Wee in regard. I want to be like Pee Wee, to be like Paul, to be remembered for being kind, for being generous. Because that's the kind of, you know what, that's the kind of life I'd like to live, and to know that my childhood hero never let me down like that is, I don't know. I think that kind of says something personally, and I think more people could learn from his example and the fact that he apologized in his death for not letting people know about it because he didn't want people to worry. I don't know. There's something very, very, very powerful in that, and I'm honestly gonna miss him. I really wish I'd had a chance to interview him or to meet him once in my life, but I'm glad he was a part of my childhood. I'm glad after his death I will be reflecting upon the legacy he's left behind. So um, we'll miss you, Mr. Rubens, and I hope you find peace in the hereafter. And thank you for the years of laughter and thought provoking this, and for making me look at Mr. T cereal in just a little bit of a different way. Now, that being said, let's do the show we were planning on doing before death came knocking at our door. And this is a story that, oh wait, did this? Okay, it did move. Okay, hold on. Sorry, the my web browser decided to move something on me. I'm thinking, why are we talking about Barbenheimer? Which I guess we can talk about that at the end of this segment. But this story once again comes courtesy of Variety. Loki season 2 trailer. Tom Hiddleston can't stop slipping through time, and Ki Hu Kwan
Kiwi Kwan.
Ki Kwan makes his Marvel debut. Tom Hiddleston is back and ready for more mayhem in the official trailer for season 2 of the Disney Plus original series. The trailer sees Hiddleston reprising titular role as the God of Mischief, sharing the screen with returning actor Owen Wilson and new cast member Ke Huy Quan. Set after the events of Avengers Endgame, the series will continue to follow the anti-hero as he works with the Time Variance Authority to track down superhero variants, stoking chaos in different timelines of the multiverse. Wilson reprises his role of Mobius M. Mobius, though his character in season 2 takes a drastic turn given the loss of some of his memory in the season 1 finale. Other returning characters include Eugene Corder. I can't pronounce this one name. Gugu is can help me here.
Gogum Batharal.
Yep. Sophia DiMartino, Tara Strong, Rafael Casillo, and more. When season 1 ended, Hiddleston was stuck in a reality he did not recognize after the multiverse was ravaged by the death of He Who Remains, played by Jonathan Majors. One confirmed new additional cast member is Quan, best known recently for his Oscar-winning role as Waymond in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I still haven't seen. He's playing an undisclosed character, although the new trailer confirms he works for the Time Variance Authority. Another fresh face of the series is Game of Thrones actor Kate Dickie, who is set to appear as a villain. Loki Season 2 will include 6 episodes penned by returning writer Eric Martin, Justin Benson, and Aaron Moorhead, and are each confirmed to direct an episode of the series, with Michael Waldron remaining attached as the show as its creator. Hiddleston, Woodrow, Victoria Alons, Louis D'Esposito, Kevin Feige also return as executive producers for the second season. Loki Season 2 will be available for streaming on Disney Plus starting October 6th, and you can watch the trailer. I'm excited. Loki was the biggest surprise of the Marvel shows to me, because originally I wrote that show off. I went on the record saying I don't care. I was so wrong.
Yeah, the best way I described Loki the first season, and especially the second season, just from this trailer, it's Doctor Who with a bigger budget.
Yeah, it's like Doctor Who Marvel, and the fact that now they're trying to set up Kang as this big multiversal threat, which Ant-Man kind of did with the Council of Kangs. And in fact, I guess this is probably a good point to talk about it as any. I'm sure you, me, and JT will probably do a Sunday funnies on this, probably called MCU WTF. Marvel Phase 5 that we're in now, I think.
Yeah, we're in Phase 5.
Which Marvel has a problem right now in the fact that they don't have a clear direction. And what do I mean by that? When you think of the Infinity Saga, where they set up Thanos at the end of Avengers Part 1, like, well, then I'll do it myself. And then, they'd sprinkle post-credit scenes, or here's an Infinity Stone or whatever in each of those phases leading up to Infinity War. There was a clear end game. Phase 4, what was the thing? I couldn't tell you.
Phase 4,
Spider-Man was cool.
Phase 4, from what I can tell, was just a giant grief fest. Literally almost all the movies were in some way related to grief. Because again, we lost a lot of people in the MCU at the end of Endgame.
And then Phase 5 has been kind of a hodgepodge. And the thing is, unless you saw Loki Season 1 and Doctor Strange, and you intend on seeing, and you have to have seen Ant-Man 3, you're not going to know what the hell's going on. And I know you, Ken, I'm almost 99% sure it was you that said this. They're trying to make it so you don't have to watch the Disney Plus shows to know what's going on. But the problem is they don't have a clear, direct line to who the threat is. And we know it's supposed to be Kang, as played by Jonathan Majors, but with that guy's current alleged legal troubles going on with him, we don't know what's going on. Now, he is still featured in the trailer as Victor Timely. Is that going to be the case a year from now? I don't know. It's confusing because Kang should be this amazing villain, like something who's a bigger threat to reality than Thanos. And he is. He can destroy entire universes at a whim with unbelievable technology. He's smart. He doesn't need the Infinity Stones. He wields reality itself as a weapon. But you don't care. You stuck your big bad guy in a movie almost nobody saw.
Well,
And
not only that almost nobody saw, but that anyone that did see it kind of panned it.
yeah, like I liked Ant-Man 3, but I went back and watched it about a month ago with Blair. She hated it. And when I go back and watch it, the main reason I liked Ant-Man is I like Cassie and I really like Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Um, and everything else just kind of happens. I mean, nothing against Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas. They're fine, but everything
They
else is
feel
just
like
kind of eh.
yeah, the problem with the problem that happened with Marvel is they were going really, really fast and they ramped up their production, and then the pandemic happened and everything went to shit.
Yeah, and there is no unifying threat. There is no
They
like what are the
Yeah,
must-see movies post Endgame? Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay, there's one. You could probably make a
maybe
case for
Black Panther.
yeah, maybe Black Panther. Doctor Strange, people are split on that pretty hardcore.
I mean, I personally like Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange is like my guy, so I
See,
I'm
it's
not
weird.
really a judgment call.
Doctor Strange, I liked it more on subsequent viewings. I didn't much love it the first time, but I've liked it now that I've seen it 2 or 3 more times since. Um,
I still think the problem with Doctor Strange, and I think we'll touch upon this on the Sunday Funnies, obviously,
mhm,
and expand on it. But my pro- the one thing I feel Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness did was take Wanda from we we saw we saw steps 1 through 5 of Wanda in WandaVision,
mhm.
and then we skipped 7 and 8, and we're on 9 and 10 with Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, like you needed to see that show to understand what the hell is going on.
You needed the
And
show to understand, but even if you watch the show, you feel like you're missing bits.
yeah, and it's Marvel's big problem right now is inconsistency. And I don't know whether Feige is completely steering the ship or they're just getting
He
greedy
can't.
for those
He
billion
couldn't.
dollar box offices.
Well, here's the problem. He couldn't steer the ship entirely because he had you have 2 or 3 TV shows a year plus the
Hmm.
movie plus 2 or 3 movies a year. It just couldn't. One man cannot do all that. So
Yeah,
he handed it off to some of his subordinates, and that caused this inconsistency.
yeah.
I think I think with the strikes going on right now, again, support the actors, support the writers,
Hmm.
everything that they're owed, they should be owed. But with the pause of all their production, with their them also taking a pause after the Marvels was done in production and said, okay, we got to correct some things going forward after Marvels comes out, which that's coming out still technically in November. Who the heck
Yep.
knows if
Yeah.
that's going to get pushed or not? Once they finish, once Marvels is out, it's done, and we get Captain America, we get Thunderbolts, we get some of the other stuff that's in the pipe. I think we're going to see a different. We're going to see a drastic change in Marvel in terms of its writing, in terms of its pacing, and in terms of its world building.
Yeah, like
Hopefully,
I mean, I guess one final thought before we move on to our next story is I'd rather see less Disney Plus shows, but I'd rather have higher quality ones. Like Daredevil looks like it's going to be great. Unfortunately, nobody gives a shit about Echo.
I mean,
I
even
want to
Disney doesn't care about Echo because they're just dropping it all at once,
yeah,
right after Loki
I
finishes
mean,
airing.
I'd really like to see What If season 2. We haven't heard much about that. Marvel
That is
Zombies,
still
we've heard nothing. We've heard
Marvel Zombies is still got the green light, and What If season 2 still has the green light.
so
Uh, I don't. Uh, the Spider-Man series is up in the air right now in terms of production. that might get axed.
X-Men 97 supposed to come out
X-Men,
next year.
yeah, X-Men 97 is pretty much in the can. They've all the voices are already done for that, and the animation is pretty much ready to go.
So yeah, I mean,
we might see a trailer for that in like December or something.
yeah. I mean, I think Disney's got a problem. I mean, they're hemorrhaging subscribers, and supposedly that's tied to some other deals and everything. I've had some people say it's due to Disney being too woke, and every time I hear somebody use the word woke as a negative, I just want to hit them in the face with a large piece of mining equipment. Because
My brain just instantly goes to Inigo Montoya saying, "You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means."
Exactly. Like there are several YouTuber friends of mine that have said stuff like that. And I'm thinking, you don't read the trades, do you? But anyway, moving right along. Another story coming from Variety this week, but this one was kind of a big one too. Lionsgate has acquired Entertainment One's TV and film operations from Hasbro for approximately $500 million. The transaction is expected to close by the end of the year. News of the sale, which broke just ahead of Hasbro's Q2 2023 earnings call scheduled for Thursday morning, so last Thursday, comes nearly 4 years after when Hasbro announced their initial intent to acquire E1 for $3.8 billion in August of 2019. According to the press release, the sale will include a talented team of employees, a content library of nearly 6,500 titles, active productions from non-Hasbro IP like The Rookie, Yellow Jackets, Naked and Afraid, which I love that show, the E1 unscripted business, which will include rights for certain Hasbro based shows like Play-Doh Squished, I guess that's a thing. The sale also includes Hasbro's interest in Canadian film and TV operations for E1 Canada Limited. Quote, this sale fully aligns with our strategy and we are pleased to bring the process to a successful close, Hasbro CEO Chris Cox said in a statement. Lionsgate's management team is experienced in entertainment and adept at driving value. We are glad to have found such a good home for E1 film and TV business. We look forward to partnering with them, especially with a movie adaptation of Monopoly. What the fuck? Cox continued, entertainment remains a priority for Hasbro. Hasbro will continue to develop and produce entertainment based on a rich vault of Hasbro-owned brand. We will also bring to life new original ideas designed to fuel all areas of Hasbro's blueprint, including toys, publishing, gaming, licensed consumer products, location-based entertainment. As part of the sale, we are expected to move an asset-light model for future live-action entertainment, relying on licensing and partnerships for select co-productions. And then it goes on here to say last November, when Hasbro announced plans to sell its E1 assets, the toy maker noted the sale would include parts of the Indie Studios TV film operations, quote, not directly supporting the company's branded entertainment strategy. And Hasbro will maintain the capability to develop and produce animation, digital shorts, scripted TV, and theatrical films for audiences related to core IP. Meanwhile, popular IP in the family division like Peppa Pig, Transformers, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, My Little Pony, Power Rangers, Play-Doh, Monopoly, Clue were not only excluded from the deal, but will see, quote, significant development, production, financing, capability support across film, TV, animation, and digital shorts as they've been rolled into Hasbro's brand's licensing and merchandising operations. In preparation for the sale, E1 has been undergoing a series of cost-cutting measures in 2021. E1 announced it would be laying off 10% of its film and television staff, followed by the sale of the studio's music division to the Blackstone Group for $385 million by early 2023. Hasbro revealed it would be laying off some 15% of its global headcount, some 1,000 positions. Last month, E1 shut down its UK theatrical distribution business. I saw something related to this indirectly. It was Hasbro said they were very pleased with how Rise of the Beasts Transformers had done in theaters. So it just finished its theatrical run. You can stream it now on Paramount Plus. Its physical thing should be coming out in probably just a few weeks. So that gives me positive that we're going to see a sequel or something down the road.
Yeah, I here's the thing. Rise of the Beasts probably just broke even, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah.
It just broke even. Dungeons and Dragons hemorrhaged money for them.
Although, that being said, I saw the director had said.
But I think Dungeons and Dragons did well on VOD and home media sales, and that helped it continue to progress and make sure that the show, which is still technically planned for Paramount Plus to happen.
Yeah, I did see something where I think the director of the D&D movie said, "We would love to make a sequel and it sounds like people are game. We just have to find a way to do it cheaper." And I
Yeah.
actually started thinking about that. How do you tell a D&D story cheaper? And I got to thinking about those older D&D movies that premiered in the early 2000s. Now hold on. What I might do is to keep the idea of a heist movie like they're doing, set it entirely in Waterdeep or
Yeah.
in maybe one of the locations, maybe like Icewind Dale, if you want to
Single,
set it.
just do a single location.
Yeah, like do a single location. Hell, you could set it in the Tomb of Annihilation or something. If you want to feature one big CG monster, do Xanathar, who is the beholder crime lord in that world, and just do it like a smaller scale movie. You don't need the fat dragon. You don't need the red wizards. You don't need the giant armies of the fucking undead. You just need one good bad guy, medieval fantasy. You can pull this off. The script just has to be firmly set in D&D. Give us a couple monsters, give us an iconic location. That's enough to sell people. You don't need major I mean, would I bring back the original cast? I wouldn't, actually. I would
I would bring like maybe one or two members of the cast.
I would maybe bring back the girl who played the tiefling and Simon, Jesse or
Yeah, actually,
Justice Smith. Yeah.
that's my thought too. Bring
Yeah.
those two characters back and have a new cast of character. The rest of the cast is brand new,
Yeah, I
and
mean, if you wanted
it works.
a cameo from Chris Pine, yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's all you really need to do. And your post credit scene could be Hugh Grant sitting in a dungeon throwing a ball against a wall and saying, "Yep, guys, I'm still here." And that's it. It's funny,
And
and
Hugh
that's all you
Grant,
need to
you
do.
know, is going to be game.
Oh yeah,
Anyway.
and you could so easily pull that off. And I know other things they've talked about with the Transformers brand, for example. They're talking about the prequel animated movies that'll tie into the other franchises. Those seem to be kind of going ahead. I think Chris Hemsworth is supposed to be. I know he's the young Orion Pax, the guy who played Lemon in Bullet Train is like Megatron or something. So
Yep.
all the right components are there for that to succeed. Although I don't know about making a movie about fucking Monopoly. But that being said, I didn't think Clue would ever work as a movie. I didn't think Barbie would ever work as a movie. And look how wrong I am. So you just need
Barbie made $1 billion at the box office. Just like,
yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah, and like let's talk about that for just a minute here. Barbie is I was listening again to Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin, and they were talking about how the brilliant of strategy of Barbie, how it's like if you love Barbie, you'll love this movie. If you hate Barbie, you'll love this movie. It's essentially a 2-hour toy commercial, but it has a message. Now, my wife didn't like it. She didn't like Barbie. I see it's really good things. I like how right on the nose it is. And it's introduced this really weird thing into the zeitgeist of popular culture right now where a lot of women are leaving toxic relationships because they realize I am enough right now and people are deriding it as anti-male. I'm like, yeah, maybe we kind of suck, guys, and maybe that's okay. I mean, and Mark had said during his Fat Man Beyond, not every movie needs to cater to you as a man. Like, not everything has to be your Mojo Dojo Casa House, which is a phrase I fucking love, by the way. And it's so true. And I liked what that movie said, and it was funny. I think Ryan Gosling is going to get some kind of an Oscar nom for supporting actor this year. You watch. I think Margot Robbie's going to get something.
Given the fact that stuff's getting pushed, Dune is still technically rumored to be being pushed. If that happens, then oh boy,
Yeah, like
it's gonna be Oppenheimer and Barbie taking
yeah,
a chunk of the awards.
which is kind of astounding. And like Oppenheimer, is a movie about a guy building the nuclear bomb, and a lot of that
It's
movie
a
is just talking heads.
Yeah, it's 3 hours of talking heads, but it is riveting as
Oh
hell.
yeah. Yeah, that's weird too. Like that's a movie that's like 3 hours. And that movie like zipped by for me. And I found out I was listening to somebody talk on like a podcast, and then I saw this pop up in like a news article. According to Cillian Murphy, there are no deleted scenes because Christopher Nolan shoots everything that he wants, and if it's in the movie, it's
Yep.
meant to be there. And there are no second takes, or not second takes. There are all the dialogue is recorded on set, so they don't have to go
Yeah.
back and redub it. Now, I never had a problem listening to this movie at all.
Well, yeah, we also saw it in ideal situations.
Yeah, like
Anyone that sees my problem with Nolan is you need to see it in the best situation you could possibly get, and sometimes that results in you having a really poor audio mix.
yeah, like I'd also heard that the IMAX version of this was like breaking projectors because it wasn't designed to run that long, which
Yeah,
is kind of
it's
amazing.
six. Do you know how heavy the film reel was for Oppenheimer?
Something like half a ton or something.
600 pounds.
That's insane. That's like me like 2 years ago. That's
Yes.
incredible.
In it's like I've seen pictures of the actual film reel. It's insane.
That's nuts, man. I mean, I never thought we would have Barbenheimer. Somebody made a joke on Twitter and they said, we're going to see this again in September with Saw X and Paw Patrol,
Yep.
which
There's already a movement.
I'm kind of gonna get in on that. Although I will say this: there is this amazing artwork I saw on Etsy for Barbenheimer, and it's Barbie standing watching the Los Alamos test site getting nuked, and it's all in pink, and it looks so good. And it is something I'm very heavily considering getting as a shirt. Sorry guys, I'm still getting over COVID. Oh, by the way, I had COVID for a couple of weeks. I'm fine. Anyway, moving on to our next story. This one comes courtesy of Kotaku, and this originally came out of San Diego Comic-Con, but now Hasbro and Activision have both had to come out and say something about this, and nobody's sure what the hell's going on. So this story comes courtesy of Kotaku, but has since been updated. Hasbro wants old Transformers games to return, but Activision lost them. Update. Remember those Xbox 360 and PS3 era Transformers games? Wouldn't it be cool if you could also easily buy and play those to play those in 2023 on modern platforms? I think so, and so does Hasbro. But according to the toy company behind the popular transforming robot franchise, Activision has apparently lost the games and doesn't know where they're stored. Released in 2010, Transformers War for Cybertron was a well-received third-person shooter that got an equally great sequel in 2012 in Fall of Cybertron, and then in 2014 we got Rise of the Darkspark, which wasn't very good, but because it was tied into the live action films, I thought it was okay. What made those first two games so memorable and beloved was the fact that they told their own stories about the origins of the popular characters like Megatron and Optimus Prime, while featuring kick-ass combat that included the ability to transform into different vehicles. Sadly, in 2018, all those Activision published Transformers games and several that were commissioned from other developers were yanked from digital storefronts, making them hard to acquire and play in 2023. It seems now that Hasbro wants to change that, suggesting the games could make a perfect fit for Xbox Game Pass once Activision, finds them. In an interview with Transformers World 2005, posted on July 28th, Hasbro talked about its new line of video game-inspired Transformers action figures, some of which I've actually reviewed on this show. Some of those new toys are based on the designs first seen in the Activision Cybertron game. So naturally, the site asked Hasbro about the possibility of re-releasing those old popular games alongside the new toys. Unfortunately, that isn't happening. Quote, sadly, apparently Activision is not sure what happened to what hard drives they're on in their building, Hasbro told the site. When a company eats a company that eats a company, things get lost, and that's very frustrating. Kotaku has inquired about the Transformers game's current status. Hasbro further added to the company hopes that the merger between Xbox and Activision will lead to people digging through, quote, all the archives and even hard drives to find the old games and bring them back. Hasbro even added it thinks the game should make an easy choice for Xbox Game Pass. Quote, we want those games back up for people to have a chance to play, said the Hasbro rep. Interestingly, Activision's lack of organization seems to have raised some headaches for Hasbro's toy designers who are working on the gamer edition of the figure. The toy company explained that it had to load up the games on their original platforms and play through them to find specific details they wanted to recreate for the toys. Quote, for World of Cybertron, we had to rip ourselves because Activision could not find. They kept sending concept art instead, which we didn't want, explained Hasbro. So we booted up an old computer, ripped them all out from there, which was a learning experience and a long weekend because we just wanted to get it right, and that's just how we did it. Now, this was updated. So some 24 hours later, after the original publication of the story, Activision CEO and EVP of Corporate Affairs, Lulu Cheng, I can't pronounce her last name, I'm sorry, had tweeted out, for the Transformers games, they were never lost. She says, quote, these headlines are wrong. We have the code. It's not lost, and it never was. On August 1st, Axios Steven Colito got a response from Activision pointing him towards a comment from Hasbro. Quote, to clarify, comments suggesting that Transformers games have been lost were made in error. We apologize to Activision and regret any confusion as they have been great partners. We look forward to future opportunities to work together. While this seems to clarify the matters, there are still some questions. Activision has yet to confirm if it actually knows where the source code for the games is specifically located. I would also love to know why Activision waited so long to comment. The initial interview was posted on July 28th, and why Hasbro claimed to not have access to key assets when developing toys based on the games. It's strange that Hasbro, which says it wants to put these games on Game Pass, hasn't done so for years now. If the games aren't lost, give them a Hasbro then. Yeah, this seems like a no-brainer. Now, you'll have to do some kind of an optimization of the code to have the games run on modern platforms, but
I mean,
why the hell not?
I mean, like, Microsoft's really good at making shit run.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, like, ultimately, if you were to put these on Game Pass, but if you were to offer War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and Rise of the Dark Spark, you put those in a 3-pack for like $90 or whatever, it'll sell. Guaranteed it'll sell.
Or just sell it for like 60, 70.
Yeah, and
as a package.
Dual. Yeah, and if you were to up-res some of that art, make it look, I don't know, run 60 FPS or whatever. Technical terms that I don't really get. That's why Alex does all the tech reviews on this show. Yeah, just make it look as good as possible. Include some art, include some like trailers or commercials or whatever. You could easily do a package. I mean, honestly, if I had my way, which I probably won't, but if I did, there was the Ninja Turtles collection a couple years ago, the Cowabunga collection, which collected all the NES era games and Super Nintendo and Genesis and Game Boy and all that shit. If you could do something like that for Transformers, that would sell so stupid well. It would make their money back so quick. And as a guy who loves the Transformers brand, there's so many opportunities there to make new toys. I know in some of the toy forums that I hang out on, they're talking about when the original Fall and War of Cybertron came out, there were combiners that were released. There's a Fall of Cybertron Bruticus that's a fairly cool toy, but with the modern engineering of the combiners now, like I know the most recent combiner is Menasor from Transformers Legacy Evolution. If you could do a Gamer Edition Studio Series combiner like they did for Devastator for Revenge of the Fallen, if you could do that with Bruticus, Superion, if you could give us a new Titan class Triptychon, you know, whatever. But to go back to video games, yeah, just put these on Game Pass. And if not, people will buy them. it
And
blows my mind.
I bet you this is just basically what happened between Hasbro and Activision, the whole talking, miscommunication and stuff. It just happened to fall in the hands of someone that had no idea what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah, like guaranteed somebody knows exactly where this stuff is. They know exactly what hard drive it's on because I guarantee you don't work for a company like Activision and you're not a fan of some of the IPs you're working on.
Yeah,
So
and I
somebody
know,
knows
and
exactly where it is.
yeah, that it's a matter of just like talking to the right people. And the problem was Hasbro was not talking to the right people when they were trying to get the assets to make the toys, and basically it just got lost in communication.
Yeah, and it's funny to like talk about some of the toys. When I reviewed the Gamer Edition Optimus, I'd actually just bought the old War for Cybertron Optimus Prime a couple of weeks prior to this, and you see some of the engineering on the older toys almost a little bit better compared to the newer stuff. So you can almost see like if they had what they needed, if they had the files, what could they have done? Maybe it's just an engineering side from Hasbro slash Takara, but interesting stuff. So hopefully we'll see this happen within a year or so. I think it's a pretty much a no brainer. The fact that we're finally getting the Metal Gear games from Konami proves miracles do happen. So maybe we'll see the Activision Microsoft thing work out. Who knows? All right, final story this week. This one comes courtesy of The Verge.
Speaking of Microsoft.
Speaking of Microsoft, Microsoft's repairability push now extends to Xbox controllers too. The Xbox team has first-party repair kits, instructions, and videos how to fix standard and Elite Series 2 gamepads. Microsoft has started selling controller parts on its online store. Owners of both the Xbox Elite Series 2 wireless controller and the standard Xbox wireless controller can head to the Microsoft store right now to buy replacement boards, sticks, buttons, covers, and more. Now, if your shoulder buttons are broken or your sticks are drifting, it means you don't have to rely on third-party sources for parts and directions to attempt to repair them that could be much cheaper than replacing the controllers that cost $59 or $179 brand new. The Elite Series 2 repair kits can range in price from $23.99 for button sets to $59.99 for a replacement PCBA and motor assembly. As you'd expect, prices are lower for the standard controller, starting at $19.99 for just the standard's top case and all the way up to $34.99 for the PCBA and vibration motor. Replacement top cases are available in black, white variants, as are the buttons. Sorry, fluorescent color fans. iFixit also lists parts for the controller, and it's worth noting these come with a quote lifetime guarantee, while Microsoft says its parts have a warranty period of 1 year. Brad Rossetti, Xbox Insider Program lead from Microsoft, tweeted about the new program this afternoon, which is last week, which appears to have been live for about a week, along with the downloadable instructions. An official instructional video on YouTube can show gamers how to repair their controllers. This helps controllers in comparison to Sony's recently introduced DualSense Edge. The $200 gamepad competes with the Elite Series based on quote pro gamer feedback. It also came out of the box with stick modules that can easily be replaced by removing a cover and lifting a latch. However, Sony doesn't sell replacements for the other parts Microsoft Store is now listing. It also follows Microsoft's agreement with shareholders at advocacy group As You Sowed nearly 2 years ago to look into enabling customers' right to repair their equipment. In June, the company also began selling replacement parts for Microsoft Surface device. The move is similar to Apple's decisions to start selling repair kits last year. This is a good move.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not smart enough to fix my own controllers, but I do know someone who does. I have my friend Brody and I have Alex when stuff breaks. And it's funny. I never had a problem with my Elite controller until very late in its life cycle on my Xbox One.
Yeah,
And
no, my Elite Series 2, one of the things that the Elite Series 2 that I noticed happened was the touch the specific pads that they use uh for the uh triggers. Like there's a little pad thing for the triggers, and the glue for that pad deteriorates really quickly. Obviously you can go and just I personally took mine apart and actually fixed it. Um, but it it is a little the way they built both the series controller as well as the Elite stuff is a little more difficult because it's a lot of tabs and stuff to pop open and get going. But overall, I mean, like, I literally just cleaned my controller, and I used a actual tester online to make sure everything was working when I put it back together, and I noticed, oh, my right stick is just showing signs of drifting.
Mm-hmm.
So something like something like, hey, I can just buy a new board with sticks and replace it. Bing bang boom, ready to go. Uh, that is a great thing. And even I could just say, buy like you can buy a shell for $20, paint it whatever the way you want to, and cool, you got a custom control.
Yeah. So, I mean, right to repair should always be your right. I'm glad more companies are doing this. I mean, I just got the PlayStation Dual Edge this year. I like the fact that you can just pop that out and fix it. But if something else breaks, I'm kind of boned. But the fact that Microsoft is allowing you to fix absolutely everything and it's less than like $60, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I really can't argue with that. Now, like again, I wish I had the technical know-how to do it. I'm not that brave or stupid to try it because I'm Mr. Butterfingers with that sort of thing. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's honestly great. I mean, I'd like to see this extend out to probably their consoles because I remember like the first batch of Xbox Series
They're
X's had
I
problems.
believe I believe they're in the process of doing that.
Thank God for that because
However, the way the series is built, it is tough. Like that thing is packed in there pretty tight.
yeah, I had a friend of mine who had their like power supply blow and
Oof.
I was trying to help them through some of my official PR channels and less than helpful. But we went through third party and we eventually got it fixed. But it was just such a pain in the ass. Plus, because this happened during the pandemic, part shortages
Oh
and
yeah.
everything else was just a pain in the ass. But anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News. So last time we heard from me, so we're going to take a listen to Alex and see what he has in store for us this week. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the strange and unusual things that happened around the big blue marble this past week. We'll be back here right here on This Week in Geek. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Ken. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Our friends at ININ Games and TAITO released Ray's Arcade Chronology for the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4, and they sent a review copy for the PlayStation 4 for us to check out. And you might be wondering, what is Ray's, apostrophe Z or Z? What is that? If you remember the arcade games, the shooters Raystorm and maybe Rayforce. Raystorm's probably the more popular one, at least in Canada and probably the States. But there was a trilogy of titles, and they were fairly advanced at the time. The first one being in the pseudo 3D realm, and then the second and third games, you've got Raystorm, Rayforce, Ray Crisis. When they came out, they were early polygonal arcade shooters and vertical shooters. And what's included in the set, I should mention that M2 is the company that did the porting, so it's pretty much top notch. They have the arcade perfect ports of Raystorm, Rayforce, Ray Crisis. Raystorm and Ray Crisis also have HD versions where the textures are up-resed or internally rendered at a higher resolution. So they did some trickery there to make it look all fancy and cool on 1080p, or in my case, playing it on a 4K television through my PlayStation 5. The games all have the dip switch options enabled, so you can increase or decrease lives, unlimited continues, you can change various aspects around on it. There's parts where you can listen to the soundtracks. There's everything you've come to want from an arcade port that just plain works. There's no crashes, no slowdowns, no hiccups, no issues. There's trophy support for all three titles within one platinum for everything. Overall, very good presentation. Still very fun. Very hard, obviously, but you can keep using continues. Obviously, you'll get extra points and you'll get achievements and whatnot if you are able to complete aspects of it without continuing or last longer, or do things like combos, or when you blow up, as you blow up, fire something so that you kill an enemy after you've already blown up. Things like that. The third game in the series is a little longer and has branching paths that you can play through. So there's a lot of replayability there. It's really much fast pick up and play gameplay. There's options for remapping the buttons. Visually, it's pretty stunning. Some of the best audio in 90s arcade shooters that I've played before. And it's a pretty good overall package. It's not going to set you back, a crazy amount of money in any way, shape, or form. Like if you're going to check it out on Nintendo, which it's going to play just fine. I played it on the PlayStation, which obviously is maybe the more powerful system overall. But it's $60 digitally if you want to get it in Canada on the Nintendo. There are physical options from Strictly Limited Games. You might want to check out that way. As far as on PlayStation, I found that it played as good as you could sort of expect. It's not going to be like, they didn't go out of the way to make like crazy 4K visuals or anything. But that being said, it's not really expected because it's very early polygonal game. As far as digitally on the PlayStation Store in Canada, it's set at $66.99. I'll be honest, I feel that price point in Canada is a little high. It should, for all means, I think it should be priced the same as as on the Nintendo Switch at the $49 price point. If it's $50, it's 100% worth it. I'll be honest, $67 is a little steep. But that's going to also depend on whether you're a super fan or not. So if you're a big fan already and you only have the way to pick it up on PlayStation, it might be worth it to you. You might be worth waiting for a sale on there. If you have the Switch, it's already cheaper on there. But if you can get this game, this trilogy, at roughly the $50 price point, that seems to be the sweet spot as far as I can tell as for the value proposition on this.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He is Ken. All right, guys, it is time to talk about the first weird news of the summer, and we're going to start things off in something kind of fun. Toronto man has sold a ultra rare One Ring card to rapper Post Malone for $2.64 million. Despite the life-changing sale, the seller plans to keep working his day job in retail. A retail worker from Toronto who made a once-in-a-lifetime discovery of an ultra-rare game card has sold the precious possession to Austin Richard Post, better known as the rapper and artist Post Malone. The One Ring was found in June in a collectible one-of-a-kind created for the tabletop fantasy game Magic the Gathering as part of a collection celebrating J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings series of novels. Because of the card's value, the person who found it originally chose to remain anonymous, but on Tuesday, Brooke Tafton revealed himself as the one who pulled the card to rule them all. He posted a video on Instagram of himself selling the card to the popular recording artist and noted fan of the game. Tafton told CBC Toronto he sold the card for $2.64 million, but after conducting interviews, he was still on his way to an 8-hour shift. Quote, "This to me would be, just setting myself up for the future, investing in something, and once I feel like I can no longer work, or maybe I want to try something else, I can," he says. Tafton sold the card with the help of the Notable Group, a marketing and PR agency. The group CEO, Carly Posner, said she couldn't confirm what taxes and fees might be associated with the sale. Tafton said he was invited to meet Malone while the artist was in Toronto for a concert appearance. The meeting was so that the artist could see the card in person. Once the two were together, he said things escalated quickly, and Malone took the lead on turning the meeting into a purchase. "It happened so fast, like I can't even tell you what happened. It was amazing," he said. In the video, Malone can be said opening a black protective case to get a look at the mint condition card, which includes fiery artwork in the gold ring with lettering printed in the black speech of Sauron, one of Tolkien's fictional languages. At one point in the montage-style video of their meeting, Malone says, I'll take it. Tafton said he showed Malone his Magic the Gathering tattoo. He looked through Tafton's entire Magic the Gathering deck. This isn't the first time Malone has spent big on a Magic the Gathering card. He previously purchased about $800,000. He told the Howard Stern Show in June 2022. The card Malone bought from Tafton was authenticated by Professional Sports Card Authority, Authenticator PSA. Halifax-based Brad Hartland is with PSA Canada and flew the card to California for authentication without ever meeting Traft. And Hartland called Malone, quote, the biggest celebrity Magic the Gathering collector there is. He said the card was first released by Magic the Gathering with a serial number saying it is one of one. He says there may be other one of ones down the line, but this one is special. This card is going to stand out for a long, long time, being the number one, he said. I remember hearing about this, and the card was immediately put into a protective slab. It was sent off to this PSA agency. We've covered a number of different cards on this show. We covered a lot of Pokemon. We've covered a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering is huge. I have my own brush of fame with Magic the Gathering, where I am 99% sure I had an Alpha Black Lotus when I was in high school, and I gave it away to a friend of mine. Whether that actually happened, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I feel pretty fucking dumb now. Still $2.6 million. That's insane. It's not like Post Malone doesn't have it.
Yeah. I mean, Magic the Gathering is one of Hasbro's billion-dollar franchises.
Oh yeah, and they just announced at like Gen Con, which happened this past week, and they're going to do collaborations with Assassin's Creed, with Jurassic Park. They've already done one with Transformers. I think there's like a Warhammer set.
There's also a My Little Pony set that they did.
Yeah, like it's insane, all these crossover collaborations. I mean, I would love to get some of the Transformers stuff, just because, you know, I'm that guy, or some of the My Little Pony stuff. Like, I would love to get Optimus Prime signed by Peter Cullen before he passes away, or Megatron by Frank Welker, or, you know, for fun, Hugo Weaving. But yeah, like, just to say, all right, I got it. But yeah, it's like, it's cool that they're doing all this thing. Like, when I tapped out of Magic the Gathering, and this is going to show just how old school I am, I tapped out during the Weatherlight expansion. So that's like in the fucking 90s, back when Trample was just introduced into it. And it got way too complicated for me. I had friends of mine who were like, oh, I've got a sliver deck, I've got a squirrel deck, and I don't have money to spend. I don't have this kind of money to spend on a kind of deck. So I just kind of dropped out of the hobby. But I've always admired the people who can play at such high levels for this. The artwork for Magic is second to none. It looks awesome. I'm honestly surprised we've never seen like a Magic the Gathering like TV show or movie or something.
They're working on a TV show. It's being produced by
Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Netflix, and then also the Russo brothers are attached as producers on it.
Okay, so it should be cool whenever it happens. I mean,
if it happens.
Yeah, if it happens. I mean, let's be real here. But yeah, it's cool. That's awesome. Go get them, kid. You got your 2.6 million bucks, and you're still gonna work a day job. That's pretty awesome. Yep. All right, so this next story comes courtesy of The Verge. Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon have launched their open source mapping project. Overture Maps Foundation data could help third-party developers use maps that don't rely on Google or Apple. Meta, Apple, Amazon, and the mapping company TomTom have launched an initiative to take on Google Maps and Apple Maps. The four companies formed the Overture Maps Foundation last year with the goal of creating an interoperable map products, and now the group has released its first open map data set. With this data, third-party developers can create global mapping or navigation products of their own, allowing them to go head-to-head with Google Maps or Apple Maps. According to Overture, the release includes 59 million places of interest, along with data on buildings, transportation networks, and administrative boundaries. Overture says the data layers have been formatted so developers can ingest and use map data in standard in a standard documented way and will be interoperable. Developers can use this information onto which to build a mapping app or any service that relies on navigation. The data set is available on Overture's website. The Places data set in particular represents a major previously unavailable open data set with the potential to map everything from new businesses, big and small, to pop-up street markets located anywhere in the world. Mark Prelo, Overture's executive director, said in a statement, Overture plans to build a broad collaboration that can build and maintain an up-to-date and comprehensive database of POI or places of interest. First formed last year, the Overture Maps Foundation could threaten Google and Apple's thrones when it comes to mapping. Having the data readily available could make it easier and far cheaper for developers to make apps. Right now, developers must pay to access Google's Google Maps API, and Apple also charges developers who are making non-native apps. I could see this actually being used for game development too, because it's no secret I play a lot of Pokemon Go. So if you had this data map set, you could create new augmented reality games to do more interesting things with, and it would certainly make things a lot more up to date. Like I know in Niantic's case, when it comes to developing Pokemon Go, you can always nominate Pokestops. But if you could create stuff that's more up to date, you could update the map and not quite semi real time, but with more regularity than their support system does. That's interesting. Having new maps, you can open that up to Apple Watch development, new things for the iPhone, new things for Android. I could see other pieces of tech kind of using this. Actually, kind of on a weird tangent, but I just found out about this. I was listening to a podcast called Two Bears, One Cave with Bert Kreischer, and he was talking to Rob Lowe. And I found out there's a watch you can buy, and if you take this watch, you have to sign all this paperwork. And if you pull out the watch's pin, it sends out a radio signal. And if you do it and you don't need help, it's a $30,000 fine, because it's one of the only emergency frequencies in the world that's constantly monitored. Wherever you are in the world, they will send a rescue team to you. And I don't know, that just kind of made me think about this, having this intuitive kind of data set, but I somehow doubt you're going to need help in the middle of Houston. But hey, who knows? Maybe, with all the advances in technology, how this could better track people. Hell, even from an accessibility angle, I could see this being used to help people who maybe need monitoring. Because I know when I do some of my work here in the city, I have often said sometimes people need medical monitoring and you need to know where they are. For example, when I'm out at the hockey games, Blair can monitor my blood sugar while I'm busy watching hockey. She can send me a message saying, "Hey Mike, you're running a little high, you're running a little low. Where are you? What are you near right now?" This could potentially be used for that. This could help locate people. I could see this being used in some pretty interesting ways. I could also see this being used in some pretty evil ways too.
Of course.
But I do
Like
think
any
it's cool that
technology.
it's there. Yeah. So
Yeah,
our
it's a cool project, and I instantly was like, "Oh, this is really cool and interesting that it's Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon that all partnered together to kind of work on this."
Yeah. So I guess we'll see whatever comes out of this data set. And if we see anything interesting, we will be sure to follow up. So our final story this week comes courtesy of AP News. And I'll have a lot to say about this because it's me. All right. So whistleblower tells Congress that the U.S. is concealing multi-decade program that captures UFOs. This story is a couple of weeks old, but it is very relevant. The U.S. is concealing a long-standing program that retrieves and reverse engineers unidentified flying objects. A former Air Force intelligence officer testified Wednesday to Congress. The Pentagon has denied his claims. Retired Major David Grouch, highly anticipated testimony before a House Oversight Committee subcommittee was Congress's latest foray into the world of UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomena, which is the official term for the U.S. government uses instead of UFOs. While the study of mysterious aircraft and objects often evokes tales of aliens and, quote, little green men, Democrats and Republicans in recent years have pushed for more research as a national security matter due to the concerns that sightings been observed by pilots may be tied to U.S. adversaries. Grouse said he was asked in 2019 by the head of a government task force on UAPs to identify all highly classified programs relating to the task force's mission. At the time, Grouse was detailed to the National Reconnaissance Office, that the agency that operates the U.S. spy satellites. Quote, I was informed in the course of my official duties as part of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, which I was denied access to, he says. Asked whether the U.S. government had information about extraterrestrial life, Grouse said the U.S. likely has been aware of, quote, non-human activity since the 1930s. The Pentagon has denied Grouch's claims of a cover-up. In a statement, Defense Department spokeswoman Sue Go said investigators have not discovered, quote, any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding to the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. The statement did not address UFOs that are suspected of being extraterrestrial objects. Grouse says that he became a government whistleblower after his discovery and has faced retaliation for coming forward. He declined to be more specific about the retaliatory tactics, citing an ongoing investigation. Quote, it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, he said. Representative Glenn Grothman, a Republican from Wisconsin, chaired the panel's hearing and joked to a packed audience, welcome to the most exciting subcommittee in Congress this week. There was a bipartisan interest in Grouch's claims in a more sober tone than most hearings, featuring whistleblowers celebrated by Republicans and criticized by Democrats. Lawmakers in both parties asked Grouse about his study of UFOs and the consequences he faced and how they could find more about the government's UAP program. Quote, I take it that you're arguing about what we need is real transparency in the reporting system so we can get some clarity on what is going on out there, said Representative James Raskin, a Democrat from Maryland. Some lawmakers criticized the Pentagon for not providing more details in a classified briefing or releasing images that could be shown to the public. In previous hearings, Pentagon officials showed a video taken from an F-18 military plane that showed an image of one balloon-like shape. Pentagon officials in December said they have received, quote, several hundreds of new reports since launching a renewed effort to investigate reports of UFOs. At that point, we have, quote, not seen anything, and we're still very early on. That would lead us to believe that any of the objects we've seen are of alien origin, says Ronald Moultrie, the Undersecretary of Defense. The Undersecretary of Defense and Intelligence and Security, quote, any unauthorized system in our airspace we deem as a threat to safety.
It's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you know, the government officials are lying.
Oh yeah, like I watched actually part of this when it was airing, and they're like, we have recovered non-human biological remains. They've talked about reverse engineering, and I asked this question to Blair, who is my wife, and I said to her, okay, if you found out aliens were real, what would that do to you? And she's like, what do you mean? Most people, I think, and if this draws any kind of criticism, feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net, I think a lot of people in Western society come at it from a religious belief that there cannot be aliens, that we were created by one true God or one true whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it would upset their religious view of the world. And it's not necessarily that they're hardcore believers in the faith. It's sort of baked into the social fabric of our society. We are alone. We are the masters of everything that we survey. There's nothing that can challenge us from a technological or biological standpoint. We are top of the food chain. We got the guns. We got the bombs. We are the best. But if you were to somehow upset that balance, what might that do to people? And I got to thinking about that. That would upset a lot of people because it would change how religion and philosophy is fundamentally looked at, because now you have to confront there's hard biological truth that something else is out there. And I've always thought even since I was a child, you would have to be remarkably ignorant to think we are alone in the vastness of untold, fathomable space that we are alone. Now, are they coming here? I couldn't tell you. Is it possible? Likely. And if we're starting to explore quantum physics, we're starting to experience string theory, like hell, we to to bring this back to fucking Marvel for a moment here, people talk about quantum realities and possibilities as a matter of water cooler talk, right? So people are willing to think about the fantastic now, but what if the fantastic became truth? How would that change your worldview? And I wonder what that would do to society as a whole. And one of the other questions I've often posed on this show, if you could find out one irrefutable truth, but you can never go back, would you rather know that we are not alone or there is life after death? Two of the most important questions you will probably ever face from, I guess, an existence standpoint, where you stand in the great cosmic scale of reality. What would change your world more? So I guess that'd be the question I would pose to you, Ken, before we kind of wrap this up. This huge philosophical question. What would affect your life more if tomorrow you knew one of those things to be true?
Honestly, for me, it's about are we alone in the universe? Because I like one of my favorite films of the last like decade is a film with Brad Pitt called Ad Astra.
Mm-hmm.
And while its ending proposes the fact that we might be alone in the universe, it doesn't necessarily conclude in the point where it's like we're concretely alone in the universe. Again, Brad Pitt. I think the biggest moment in the movie is when Brad Pitt goes, "We're for right now, we're all we've got," and he's saying that to his father, and it's such an emotional point in the movie, and it's such a high in the movie that that sticks with me so hard. Um, and like the idea of like we are probably not the only thing in the universe. I I can pretty much say that I believe that at
Mm-hmm.
a minimum. Uh, are we going to prove that in my lifetime?
Probably
Maybe,
not. Maybe, yeah.
maybe not. Does it matter? I personally don't think so.
Yeah, because there's nothing we as an individual can do about it. I mean, if aliens showed up tomorrow and landed in front of the White House, the Pentagon, or Parliament Hill up here in Canada, you as Ken Lutz, me as Michael Ashkowy, there is nothing we can do but look on in wonder and say, okay, what
Now
happens
what?
next? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's one of those things where, do I think the government should come totally clean? On one hand,
probably not.
yes, but on the other hand, I could see the type of panic that might cause. Like there's always I think back to a really good line from a fun movie from 1997,
Yep,
Men in Black.
yep.
A
I
person is
love that.
smart. People are
People are
panicky,
panicked,
stupid,
stupid.
and you
Yep,
know it. And it's
yep.
so true. Like, because if that were to come out irrefutably true, if NASA were to stand beside your president, Joe Biden, or whoever, and said, okay, guys, we are not alone. I wonder what would happen. I'm not saying we're going to have riots in downtown Cleveland, but you would have I really think you would have a certain degree of civil unrest. And I don't
For
know what
sure.
that would look like and what that would happen to some of our allies and some of our adversaries across the world. I don't know. And that's the kind of terrifying thing because honestly, it's not the fact whether we've got, the Vulcans knocking on our door or there's xenomorphs out there. It's what are the nuclear states going to do knowing that they're not necessarily the top threat to a government or org, right? Like they're not the number one threat to NATO. Their borders aren't necessarily being threatened by a guy sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's threatened by something they can't see, they can't track, and could even be among them right now. And when you look at the videos that have come out in the last year or two of some of these UAPs, and if you've read some of the testimony from some of these pilots, it's incredible, some of the things that they've seen and they've captured on gun cameras that's been smuggled out. We don't know what's out there, and I don't know. Are we ever going to get full disclosure? You're probably right, Ken. In our lifetimes, probably not. But I also am not discounting the possibility that one day we're going to get that proverbial cosmic phone call and something's going to show up. I'm hoping it's not Independence Day. I'm more hoping for friendly aliens like in Star Trek First Contact. Not the Borg, but the Vulcans. I'm more hoping for that. But it's going to be interesting to see that would happen, because that would be a true turning point in human history, and that would be the most important turning point in human history, short of like a religious miracle from any of the number of faiths around the planet. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to see. It's an interesting thing to talk about, to theorize about, and if you're a big fan of talk radio, you want to go listen to Coast AM, I'm sure there's tons of people there that are willing to talk. But for now, I think we can all agree something is out there. We don't know what it is. The government probably knows something about it, and for now, we're not going to know. So that being said, we are going to talk about aliens in our next review. I'm going to be talking about the Transformers role-playing game, where we go to the cybernetic world of the Transformers. We're going to go to Cybertron, and we're going to take a look at the Game Master screen and the enclosed adventure Beacon of Hope, which is something we're going to be playing here on TWIG probably later on in September, as we start to prepare my Autobots to transform from their proto-forms into their alternate mode. So we will be covering all that and more right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We will be back, guys, right after this for me and Ken to close out the show and talk about what is coming up on the site this week. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Thunder, Laserbeak, Ravage, prepare for battle.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really cool we got from our friends over at Renegade Game Studios. We're going to be talking about the Transformers role-playing game. We're going to be taking a look at the Game Master screen and the included adventure, A Beacon of Hope. We're going to talk about the adventure first. So the adventure is meant for low-level characters. This is sort of a continuation you could do after the adventure that's in the book. And it's meant for you to kind of be a part of this Autobot project that you're working on, which is meant to send a rocket out to the end of the solar system to hopefully reestablish contact with Cybertron. You're going to be working mostly under Hoist, who is the kind of like the green tow trucky guy. He does have a figure in the I think it's Siege or Earthrise figure line recently, and you're also going to be working with one of the Autobot Target Masters, which is Quick Mix, which is actually one of the toys that I had kind of growing up. He was the cement truck that had the two Target Masters that could plug into the side. Meanwhile, the Decepticons are going to be trying to obviously mess things up with Soundwave and Starscream. They want to sabotage this rocket. There's like this virtual intelligence that they want to corrupt, and you're going to be mostly fighting against low-level Decepticon foot soldiers, but there are some named enemies in the book. You're going to be fighting against a lot of Soundwave's cassettes. You're going to be fighting against Rumble, some Ravage clones, Laserbeak, and surprising for me is you get to fight Beastbox, who is one of the Recordicons that can be kind of combined into a duocon known as Squawk Talk, if I remember right. Or is it Slam Dance? I think that's Blaster's one. Either way, there are some named Autobot and Decepticons in here, but you're only really getting stat blocks for the Decepticons. The Autobot stat blocks are remarkably small. You don't really get full stats for them, which is kind of a shame. The adventure itself very much feels like an episode of the G1 cartoon, where basically you're just trying to get back the rocket parts that will get stolen from you. And it is pretty neat. I mean, eventually Optimus Prime does come to help you, and it's a good adventure for low-level players to sort of get your Cybertronian feet wet. I do like it in that regard, and it is nice that it is included with the Game Master screen. So to speak about the Game Master screen, this runs on the Essence 20 system, which powers most of the Renegade Game Studios worlds, and it's pretty nice. You get basically the breakdown on target numbers, certain conditions, certain character classes may have a certain ability, like scouts. There's disappear. There are charts that you may need for like exploding vehicle damage, how fast do things move, what are the difficulty shifts, what do energon points do, stuff like that you don't want to be looking up in the main book to keep things kind of rolling here. I know this would have been really nice to have when I ran a convention game a couple of weeks ago at GriffCon here in Guelph. So do I like this as a whole? The artwork on the Game Master screen is really nice. You get a really nice picture of Windblade, Wheeljack, Optimus, Bumblebee, and Grimlock. And this is heavy cardstock. This reminds me very much of the Star Trek Adventures Modifius game screens they have for the Klingon and for the main Federation thing. And I would actually say this is a better cardboard stock than most of the Dungeons and Dragons ones, and better than the Pathfinder ones I've had in recent years. So from a standpoint of being really sturdy, I really like this Game Master screen. It's never a bad thing to have quick notes available to you. As for the adventure, if I did have one major complaint, I do wish they would give you full Autobot stats rather than just here's their willpower, here's this, that, and the other thing, and it doesn't really give you a whole lot. It would have been really nice to have full stats on Quick Mix and Hoist, but having some of the other Soundwave cassettes was really unexpected. Like I said, Beastbox was a really nice pull that I didn't expect, and then having named ones like Laserbeak and Rumble are definitely appreciated. So if you want to pick this up, you can check out your local game retailer, or you can go to the Renegade Game Studios website or follow the link in this episode post.
Decepticons, attack!
Autobots, fall back!
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been your host, Mike the Birdman. He's been Ken, and thank you once again for joining us here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. And thank you guys for kind of keeping an eye on the site as me, Alex, Ken, and JT and Aaron took the month of July off. It was a wonderful recharging break. And that means in August, I am in charge of all the programming. So let's hope I don't drop the ball on this. So that being said, we got a lot of stuff coming up this week. I know me and Ken are going to be recording another loose cannon on anime, which seems to be kind of our thing. We're going to be doing something that we've called anime family stuff. And as Ken has put it, there's one movie that's going to make me bawl, so I'm sure my wife will look forward to consoling me as I cry. So that'll be a good time. Me and Aaron are going to be doing something a little bit more lighthearted for a future imperfect. We're going to take a look at a pair of movies that came out in the 1980s featuring one of the most friendly robots around. We're going to be talking about the two Short Circuit movies, and that'll be coming out. And I know we were talking about this during the show. We are going to do a Paul Rubens salute at some point. We'll probably talk about his Pee Wee Herman features. We're also going to do a show with JT and Ken and myself called MCU WTF. Sounds like an amazing Law and Order spinoff. So we'll be talking about what does the MCU do to right the ship? Is it even possible at this point? I know we're going to have some other things. I know I'm going to be working with my friends Enrique Couto and David Denoyer from Welcome to Primetime, a Freddy's Nightmare podcast. We're going to be taking a look at the Slumber Party Massacre series. We're going to be looking at Slumber Party Massacre 1 and 2 and the remake, which I didn't even know existed until last week when I found it randomly on Crave. So we'll be talking about that and maybe some other fun things up on the site later on this month. We've got a lot of stuff to cover as we'll be covering all sorts of fun things here on the show. because Alex needs a little bit of a vacation to fix things in the TWIG back end. Speaking of other things that are going on in the back end, I'm hopefully going to get these guys ready to play a one-shot or maybe a two-shot of the Transformers RPG from Renegade Game Studios, and then we'll see what else we can do before the end of the year, because I know Alex still wants to run Power Rangers. It's just getting things lined up right now with recording schedules, and with me doing so many public speaking engagements, it's a little bit hard. But I know we are going to be moving into Starfield season. We got Spider-Man 2 coming up. We've got Assassin's Creed. We've got the new Super Mario Brothers, Detective Pikachu, Call of Duty. Is there anything else I'm missing, Ken? I'm sure I am. Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3 just came out. WarioWare's got a new game coming out in a little bit. It's gonna be a big year for video games.
Yeah, it's going to be super packed, guys. Plus, I've got lots of reviews for new Transformers toys coming out from Hasbro. I got some stuff from the RPG. I've got some Power Ranger stuff. I got some G.I. Joe stuff. I got some Star Trek stuff I'm going to be talking about. It's going to be fun, guys. I'm really looking forward to sharing some stuff with you guys. And as the summer begins to wind down, I know some of you guys will be heading off to college and university for the first time. So hopefully you will find some geeks and some friends out there that you can get together, have some gaming groups, or find some other fellow dorks like yourself to fly that freak banner that we all unite under the word of geek. So that being said, guys, me and Ken are looking forward to being your hosts here on TWIG over the next month, but I will be joined by JT and Aaron and Enrique and Dave soon. So for This Week in Geek, we have been
Ken from This Anime.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again right here real soon, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.